Hey everybody, hope you're having a great Tuesday. I'm so glad you're joining me for today's World of Weather because we're going to talk about a hot topic, and that is weather myths. Have you ever heard of weather myths? For example, and this maybe not a weather myth, but the groundhog. How accurate is the groundhog? Have you heard of the woolly bear caterpillar? Some say that depending on how long the area of brown on its body is, it tells you if it's going to be a colder winter. We're going to talk about heat lightning. We're going to talk about thermometers and where they're located in different temperatures. We're going to talk about, let's see what else we've got. The clouds and the storms, and when the sky is red, depending on if it's sunrise or sunset, what that means as far as weather for the day. So we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. A lot of this is really interesting. A lot of it is in the Farmer's Almanac, or maybe something when you were young, you grew up hearing from grandma, grandpa, or your parents. So we're going to talk about these folklore, if they're true, if they're accurate, and if they're not accurate, because you need to know that as well. So today's World of Weather, we are talking about weather myths. If you have any questions, I have you up on Facebook. At least I did. I'm going to bring you back up here. I have you on Facebook, and I will be watching for any questions. So please let me know. I'm not going to be able to answer every question if it's about a specific folklore or weather myth, but certainly we'll get through most of them. So here you are right now on Facebook. Go ahead and ask any questions. I will be happy to answer all of them. So let's start. We are going to start with thermometers. Now, this is one that you may notice if you watch CBS 46. And we have changed it. So now the thermometer on the corner of the screen, we have the temperature. And a lot of times the temperature was cooler than the airport temperature. The official temperature we use here in Atlanta is at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. We have a weather station there. That's what detects or gives us the actual winds and temperature at the airport. So for Atlanta, it is at the airport. But we also have a little weather station on the top of our roof at our station in Midtown. So in the past, you would notice the temperature, we call it the weather temperature, the bug, was different than the temperature at the airport. And that's just because they're in different locations. So to get an official temperature reading, there's a lot that has to happen. You can't just put a thermometer in the middle of the street. That cannot be accurate because obviously the lower you are to the ground, the hotter it is. If you're on asphalt, it's hotter. On average on a tennis court, it's about 10 degrees warmer than on the grassy surfaces. So depending on where a thermometer is determines how accurate of a reading it is. So those accurate temperatures, the ones we get, the official temperatures that you're going to see on our weather maps, those are accurate recording stations, and they have a lot of rules they need to follow. So with that said, this camera around, and we are going to start today's World of Weather lesson. And again, we are talking about weather myths today. And we are going to start our lesson with talking about thermometers and official thermometers and reporting stations. Now, let's say we have an average house, the greenhouse on the left, and then we have an official recording. And the one on the right is very similar to what we see at Hartsfield-Jackson International, where we get our official readings. Now, notice the average house on the left, it says 97 degrees. And notice on the right, the official recording is 89 degrees. So they can be as much as 10 degrees different depending on where they are located. Now, the number one rule for a thermometer to be accurate, it cannot be in direct sunlight. So again, you can't put a thermometer in the middle of the asphalt, in the middle of the road. You can't put it in direct sunlight. That is not an accurate reading. It has to be in the shade. So official recordings are actually built in these little boxes. They are painted white so they're not absorbing the heat. And that way you're getting the actual air temperature, not the temperature from the sun hitting the thermometer. Another thing that can influence the temperature is dark colors can absorb more heat. Again, black asphalt, a black house, a black deck, or a dark colored deck is going to get hotter than something that's white. So the white, that reduces heat absorption, which is why the boxes are painted white to get that official reading. Also, nearby houses or concrete can add radiant heat. So if the thermometer is in a concrete jungle, if it's on a big parking lot, if it's on an area that has a lot of heat, that radiates heat, it's going to be a hotter temperature. Whereas a Stevenson box, which is those white boxes that officials use to get an official recording, they need to be 4 feet above the ground in an open field. They're not going to be in a parking lot. They're not going to be in the middle of a racetrack. They're not going to be on an area with a lot of concrete. Again, open field, 4 feet above the surface, painted white, and in the shade. So those things give us an accurate reading, and that is why the accurate reading a lot of times will be very different than the reading you get at your house. Another thing you'll notice, a lot of us have our cars. They say the temperature, and sometimes you'll get in your car and you'll notice it says it's 100 degrees, even though the actual temperature is 90. And again, your car is parked outside, it's on asphalt, it's in direct sunlight. So the temperature reading on your car is going to be very different than the temperature reading you're going to get from an official recording, which happens in a Stevenson box. Now, another myth, an old saying is red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky at morning, sailor take warning. So we are examining if that is true. We did have a lesson on the red sky and why that happens, and it has to do with what we call Rayleigh scattering. Basically, the red wavelengths are a lot longer, and so as color is coming back to your eye, it travels a further distance. It loses, because of Rayleigh scattering, all the other colors of light, the blues, the greens, the indigos, the violets, and what reaches our eye is red. But here's an example. Again, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So as a person or a sailor, again, red in the morning, sailor's warning, red at night, sailor's delight. So because of that, if it is sunrise, again, red in the morning, sailor's warning, that sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and if you see the red clouds, that means the storms are coming towards you, which is why sailor's warning. If in the morning you see those red clouds, the storms are coming to you. So again, that is why it means most likely we are going to see some storms. Now, on the other hand, red at night, sailor's delight, it's going to be the opposite. It means the storms are moving away from you. Again, the sun sets in the west, rises in the east. You see those clouds, they're red because they're far from the sun, and it means the clouds are moving away from us. So it is true. Red in the morning, sailor's warning. Red at night, sailor's delight. Now, this is not 100% true, but certainly the folklore is right. Again, it is moving away from you. So that is something that that we see. The reflection comes back to you. Again, we are far from the sun, which is why it has that red color. Now, another folklore that we talk about, and there you see ding, 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 mainly true. So it is mainly true, is heat lightning. Now, heat lightning is lightning that has, you can see, but no thunder is heard. It usually happens in the summertime when it's very hot, when thunderstorms are taller and can be seen from further away. Now, basically, heat lightning is cloud to ground lightning that is very far away. The further the lightning is, the less you're going to hear it. So when it's very loud, you know the storm is close. But what happens is the sound dissipates before you actually hear it. So with thunder and lightning, you have heat lightning. It is lightning, it's just you're far enough away that you don't physically hear the thunder. So that's what heat lightning is. It's cloud to ground lightning that is very far away. Now let's talk about Groundhog Day. There he is. Look how cute this little groundhog is. And I'm sure you all know what Groundhog Day is. It happens on February 2nd every year. And there's a lot of groundhogs across the country, but the most famous one is Punxsutawney Phil. We also have General Bogard Lee here in Georgia. But on February 2nd, if the groundhog sees its shadow, it means 6 more weeks of winter. If it does not see its shadow, it means it's going to be an early spring. Now, this has been happening for the past about 120 years. In those 120 years, Punxsutawney Phil has 103 times predicted a longer winter and 20 times an early spring. Now, out of all those things, he's only been correct about 39% of the time. So, Punxsutawney Phil, is it accurate? Is he accurate? No. In fact, if we just threw a coin in the air and tried to predict it, we'd have a 50-50 chance. And Punxsutawney Phil only has about a 39% chance. So he is fired. He is not very accurate. That is why you need to trust your meteorologists, because we are more accurate than Punxsutawney Phil or General Bogard Lee. Now, another folklore has to do with a cup of coffee. Can a cup of coffee predict the weather? Some people say that if the bubbles in your coffee collect near the center, that means there's high pressure. And usually with high pressure, there is fair weather. Some people say that on the other hand, if you notice those bubbles collect near the edge, that means low pressure and unsettled weather. And is that correct? Ding, ding, ding. No, false. It is not false. It is not true. So don't look at the bubbles in your coffee thinking they can predict the weather. It is not an accurate way of predicting the forecast. Let's go on to our next one. Look at these cute little guys. These are the woolly bear caterpillars. And the woolly bear caterpillars, in autumn, they come out, especially in the Northeast. And the weather folklore is that the longer the woolly bear's black bands are, so they have, they have brown in the middle and black on the edges. The folklore is that the longer the black bands, the longer, the colder, and the snowier and the more severe winter will be. On the other hand, they say if the brown is longer and you see more brown, then it's a less harsh winter. So again, more black than brown, harsher winter. If you have more brown than black, that means a milder winter. And a lot of people, they try to date back, why is this even a thing? Well, they've come up with that there's actually 13 segments on their body, and each segment corresponds to the 13 weeks of winter. So they think that's where all of this starting. But in reality, the coloring on these woolly bears is based on how long the caterpillar has been feeding, its age, and its species in the autumn. So really, the colors on the woolly bear are better indicators of the past season, of what happened in autumn, as opposed to what is going to happen in the winter. Again, these are the different colors of the woolly bears. And again, people think that the longer the brown, the milder the winter, the shorter the brown area, the more harsh the winter, but it's really an indicator of what happened in the autumn. So nope, the woolly bear is not a good indicator of what kind of winter we're going to have. And there's today's trivia question. What time of year does heat lightning happen? And this happens in the summer when we have high heat. Those clouds are very tall in the summer. So the taller the cloud, the easier it is far away. It's just like a very tall building. You can see it from far away a lot easier than a short building. And because in the summer we get really high heat, really intense thunderstorms that build up in the sky, we see that lightning, that cloud to ground lightning from afar, from further away, because it's taller. And that's why we see heat lightning in the summer and not in the winter. So I'm reading your questions now. Let's see. Ooh, lots of people here. Hi, Bob. No, you didn't miss us. Hi, Melvin. You're watching from Snellville. Hey, Butch. Hey, Gerald. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Good afternoon. Oh, Lithia Springs Public Library. You shared this string. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody from Lithia Springs. So glad you're learning about these weather myths. Hi, Nathaniel. Let's see. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Bob. Let's see. Everyone, no questions. Everyone's just saying hi. Yep, Bob, you're right. It's a myth. It's not a hit. It's a myth. Gerald, you got it right. Summer was the right answer. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning about these weather myths. We learned about coffee. No, your coffee can't predict the weather. No, a groundhog can't predict the weather. What was the other one? No, the woolly bear caterpillar cannot predict the weather, unfortunately, but I can. So I'm glad you tuned in and watched me at CBS 46. We're going to be talking about a lot tomorrow, and this week we have really cool World of Weather segments. Tomorrow we're talking about rip currents, which are really important, especially if you love going to the beach. And then on Thursday and Friday, we're talking about weather instruments, how they work. And then on Friday, we're going to be making weather instruments at home. So I hope you'll join us for World of Weather. Also join us at 4 o'clock. We're talking about the tropics. Hurricane season starts June 1st, but we already have an area of possible development that in the next 5 days could be a tropical system. So we have a lot to talk about, not only on the air on CBS 46 starting at 4, but also on World of Weather. Everyone stay safe. Have a great afternoon. I will see you at 4 o'clock on CBS 46 and tomorrow right here at 1:15 for the World of Weather.